Alright, so in this next video, I'm going to be going through the full assessment framework that we've got, whether you call it a full assessment, full consultation, just the full meeting that you'll be going through once that initial conversation has been had. So this will most likely be directly with the solicitor, lawyer, attorney, and I'll just be going through this framework. Now, on our check-in calls, on our weekly check-in calls, we're going to redo this specifically for your service area, specifically also for the way you would speak as well. Now, this framework, we don't use a lot of complicated words in here. We try to keep it simple, but again, you would still need to tailor it to the way you communicate best. Yeah. So I'll just go through the sections, one by one, and then we'll take it like that. Right. So in the intro, you just build light rapport. Now, you most likely do this already anyway. So whether it's a Zoom meeting, whether it's a face-to-face meeting, just the niceties, get them out of the way, and you don't want to go too heavy-handed on it. Obviously, I don't need to tell you that. Now, for the agenda, so you just say something to the effect of, all right, so I'll hopefully going through a step-by-step process on how we can help you, but I'll recap our initial call and go through some questions so I have a good understanding on the entire situation. Is that all right? Perfect. We've got the agenda out of the way as well. So again, very straightforward stuff. Now, what we want to do next is recap their initial conversation with us, right? Just to literally take us back to that, where we left off, essentially. So whoever took that initial call should have made the notes on the specifics of what I'm going to go through now. Okay. So on our initial call, you mentioned you needed help with, whatever the goal is, with your application, with your appeal, whatever the XYZ goal is, right? You wanted to get this done. You wanted to get this done for the time that they mentioned. So you wanted to get this done into 2 months' time, 3 months' time, whatever it might be. But you've not been able to do it due to whatever that issue was. So if you remember on the initial consultation call, we ask, the last question I believe we ask is, how come you've not been able to do anything, or how come you've not been able to achieve that yet? And they would have given that reason. That's very key, so we want to make a note of that and we say it here. Does that all sound accurate, or did I miss anything? And of course, if you did, the client will, or should I say prospect, will go into the details if anything has been missed. But this is just a good way to start off the consultation, so the the prospect feels understood, and we were right back where we left off, essentially. All right. Now, obviously, you'll need to then go into eligibility and suitability questions. Obviously, you'll know what these questions are. It's just a bunch of information gathering, further qualifying. They should already qualify, but I guess more information gathering for yourself. Again, you'll know what these questions are. So when you do get this document, obviously we're going to make a copy, and then we're going to literally go line by line and we'll change everything to make sure it's perfect to your service area and also perfect for your firm as well. All right. So once you've gone through the eligibility questions, suitability questions, we'll go into the ideal outcome. So what we want to do here is we want to paint a picture of whatever the ideal outcome is. Now, the truth is, most people don't really care about your processes. They don't really care about your service. All we all want, everyone, is just to have their needs met, just to have their ideal outcomes met. Are you with me? So this section is very, very, very key. Very, very key. So I wouldn't want you to cut corners while you're going through it, because sometimes you might feel like, I don't feel comfortable asking this. Again, you might feel that at the start. This is if you don't already do this, right? But as you do it more and more and more, it will get more and more comfortable. All right. Okay. So if let's say if we are able to get you to your XYZ goal, again, don't say goal, objective, outcome. Use what they've used. What does this allow you to do that maybe you're not necessarily able to do now, right? And then they'll go into how, what it allows them to do, right? And then you ask, can I ask, is it just you look after, or do you have a family as well, right? Again, I guess it would depend on the service area, but for most service areas, this would be a very relevant question. Now, if it's just them, you then say, all right, so when we hope you get to XYZ goal, how would that make you feel, right? So what we always want to do is we always want to tie a feeling to their outcome. We always want to tie a feeling to their outcome, right? Because people want all these nice feelings, right? People want their outcome, but they also want the feeling tied to that as well. So we always want to get a feeling tied to it. Now, if they do have an outcome, what would it mean for you and your family once you're able to get that successful outcome, XYZ goal, right? Because they can understand what it means for them, but what it means for their family is sometimes a bigger motivator, right? And it's obviously an additional motivator as well. So it's very key to also ask this question if they have a family too that, you know, that's around them, okay? And then after that question, you can then ask, you know, how would that make you feel knowing that you were able to help your family do X, Y, Z? So you can ask follow-up questions from then on as well, okay? Now, after that, again, another key question here. It sounds like getting this done correctly, especially on the first try, is very, very important, right? The reason why we ask this is because, how can I put it? If you have a service area where the prospect can go and do the service themselves, we are almost preempting it with this question, because if they're thinking about doing it themselves, obviously they've never done anything like this before, more than likely, right? So their chances of success are very slim, where you, the professional, your chances of success are very high, right? So we want to establish, you know, is getting this done the right way, correctly, getting it right the first time? That is very important, isn't it? And of course they'll say yes, that's very important, right? So that's a key question to ask. Okay, now we've painted the picture. We go into cost of inaction. So the thing is, we want to understand the cost of not doing anything, not making a decision, not moving forward. We want to understand that, but we want them to tell us what that cost of inaction is, okay? So just so I have a good idea on your time frame, how soon would you like to get to XYZ goal? They'll then mention how soon they would like to get to the goal. Now, let's say that didn't happen. You don't do anything and you're not able to get your XYZ goal. What would life look like then? Right? So let's say that didn't happen. You didn't do anything and you're not able to get to XYZ goal. You didn't do anything is key, because obviously, again, at the end of this, we want them to make a decision, whether, you know, to move ahead or whether not to move ahead, but we want that decision to be made, right? So now let's say you didn't do anything, that didn't happen, you didn't do anything and you're not able to get XYZ goal. What would life look like then? Yeah, and then obviously they would go on and explain what their situation would look like if they didn't do anything. Now, you know, the thing is, when you ask this question, it literally can get people to break down crying, because, you know, if some of these people don't get their ideal outcome, life will be devastating. You know, life will be terrible. So you want to be sensitive when you're asking these questions, because, you know, for some people, if they don't get their ideal outcome, their life is, you know, not going to look, it's going to be terrible, quite frankly. So we want to be sensitive when asking these questions. But again, we want to ask it. Okay, we still want to ask it. Okay, now we then say, how would, obviously what they mentioned, so you want to describe, so how would you doing XYZ, life looking like ABC, how would that make you feel? Again, we want to tie a feeling to it. Okay, and if you don't mind me asking, right, is that something that you'd be okay with? Okay, and obviously they'll go ahead and tell you that 100% I wouldn't be okay with it, right? And then you go into the pitch. Okay, now for the pitch, we're going to have to write this out specifically for your firm, for your business, for your service area. But there's a framework that we follow for the pitch. Again, people don't really care about what you do or the processes. They just want to get whatever their ideal outcome is, right? So in the pitch, we're going to speak to obviously what they're looking for. Now, of course, if they really care about the processes, after you've finished the pitch, they'll go ahead and ask you the questions that they care about, right? So we don't need to go into too many technical details here anyway. So we start off with, you know how you mentioned, right? We start off with the main problem. You know how you mentioned, you know, you've not had the time to do this, or you know how you've mentioned you worked with a previous firm in the past and they did A, B, C, X, Y, Z, right? So what we do, and then you explain on a high level what you do, right? So you explain how you help them, you explain the chances of being successful, you explain the success rate you've had with, we've had with something similar or other cases similar in the past. Just explain on a high level. You don't want this to obviously be too long, but just to show that obviously what you guys do is very, very good and you guys are very competent, right? So what that means for you is logical problem solve. So what that means for you is that you're able to do ABC and have a successful appeal. You're able to do ABC. So what the logical problem solve is, okay? so that you can actually, we want to get that emotional part. So the questions you asked in the future pace, right? The questions you asked there, or the answers you got, sorry, you want to then use it in that emotional goal. So you and your family can feel more secure. So you can feel free without having to worry about maybe what might happen next, right? Whatever that emotional feeling was that they mentioned to you, you want to use it here, right? And that's the pitch, right? And then at the end you say, does that make sense? Of course it makes sense. So you can at this point ask, what questions you have for me, or what things with the whole process you're not sure of. And if they have any technical questions, this is where you go into it, rather than just giving them so much technical stuff that their mind is going to go blank out anyway. We then obviously ask them what questions you have. Okay, now going to the close. So again, we would amend this word for word to the way that suits your service area. Okay, so it would go something like this. So to get you a successful application, we charge X amount. This covers the entire process from A to Z. All you'll need to do is send us your documents, and then we'll handle everything for you in about whatever the time frame is for when the work will be done. We then hand you back a successful application. Does that sound good? And then if they say that sounds good, you then say perfect. If it's you have a card machine, or they send the bank, they send money over. If it's a case where they transfer money into the business bank account, you then say, here are the bank details to get you started. Do you have your phone with you? Right, so this is obviously for a face-to-face meeting. Here are the bank details to get you started. Do you have your phone with you? Yes, we do. That's great. Let's get you started then. Okay, so this is just a softer question to assume the close, and obviously it's a case that they will transfer the funds to get started, and that's how you proceed. Now, if it's a card machine, something quite similar. Let's get you started. Do you have your wallet with you, or do you have your phone? Do you have your card with you? Perfect. And then you take it like that. Or if it's a case where you send them an invoice, you send them the invoice, they pay the link while they're still face to face in the office, and then that's all squared away, right? If it's a case they need to sign some documents, same kind of thing. What's your best email? I'll get the documents sent over now. Just we can even go through it together, and then make sure the documents are signed, and then obviously you close, right? It's always ideal to close there and then, as long as definitely you can help this prospect, as long as because you don't want to be working with people that that you can't help, right? So as long as your firm can help this person get to their ideal outcome, we want to be moving forward there and then. Because what can happen is, for example, if someone is doing something for the first time that they've never done before, there is a bit of uncertainty before they kind of commit to that move. They don't know what they don't know, so there's a bit of nervousness. They're having maybe some doubt, maybe they're making the right decision, right? And if you allow that person to maybe take longer than what is needed to make a decision, they can go somewhere else, have another thought, and work with another provider, right? So as long as you can definitely help that person, we want to be moving forward there and then. Okay, we want some form of commitment there and then. Okay, now, will you close 100%? Definitely you won't do. You don't have to even close 100%. But this framework is meant to help you close a lot more than what you're currently closing now with people that are completely organic. Now, your close rate with people that are obviously like referrals is probably quite high. But if it's people that have just found you, and then maybe they're shopping around, they're looking elsewhere as well, this framework will help you improve your close rate. Now, on our weekly calls, like I mentioned, we're going to be recapping this, and we're going to be role-playing it as well with either yourself or the team, whoever's going to be taking the calls, or whoever is going to be taking these full assessments and consultations. All right? Now, in the next video, I'll go through any kind of objections you'll most likely get. If you're going to get objections, you most likely get it here. When you really go for the close, that's where you're going to get the objections. I'll go through the most common objections, and then any other type of objections we can kind of go through on our calls. I don't want to overload with too much information, and again, we don't need to become the best salesperson in the world. We just need to be a little bit better than what we already are, and results will make increasing your close rate from 10% to 20% will already make a whole world difference. So that's basically it for this video. If you have any questions, you can just message me directly. Other than that, I'll see you on the next video. All right, thank you.